Welcome to Uncommon Courtesy.
We give you the courtesy of conversation
That's uncommonly spoke of.
I'm D-Mac.
I'm Wesley.
And this is the show. Yo, before we get started, remember to like, share, subscribe, and hit that bell before we get started. Or, saying to follow us to see what we're doing. Before we get started, 1,000 wow, my friend. 1,000 wow. Here's to another 1,000.
Here's to another one. We appreciate you guys for subscribing to our channel. We really want to ask everybody, if you're watching this video, if you watch another video, please subscribe, check us out.
Yeah,
comment.
sure. Let your friends know. You want to argue and talk with us? Let us know. I want to start off with what's going on in Sudan. Large-scale massacre looms in Sudan city, surrounded by paramilitary, U.S. warns. The U.S. is warning of a looming potential large-scale massacre in El Fasher, a city of Sudan, as troops from the Rapid Support Force paramilitary group and allied militia encircle the city in what the U.S. is saying indication of an imminent offense.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this has been going on, you said, for about 2 years in Sudan.
I think they're saying like a little over a year. Said fighting broke out about a year ago in the capital of Khartoum. It might be about 2 years or something like that. I can't pronounce it. Khartoum. Yeah. And they said more than 8 million people have been displaced by this civil war. Something we really don't hear about. They're saying that it's just two factions. They've kind of broken up into two separate factions. I believe that one of them was the duly, I won't say whether he's elected or if he came in through a coup. And I think the other guy was like his general at one point in time. Yeah. And then they kind of split apart. But you know how it goes. You're fighting over power. You never know. Some other country probably came in. There's probably natural resources involved. You know how this story plays out every single time when it comes to a lot of African nations or just nations around the world.
And the reason you don't hear a lot about what's going on in African nations is because the rest of the countries want them all to kill each other so they can take the land. Because Africa has the most natural resources in the world. It's the only continent that's actually rooted to the ground. And everything comes from there.
It says, on one side are the Sudanese armed forces who remain broadly loyal to General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, the country's de facto ruler. Against him are the paramilitaries of Rapid Support Forces, RSF, a collection of militias who follow the former warlord, General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, known as Hamiti. I'm sorry. But the RSF was founded by former dictatorial ruler Omar al-Bashir as an Arab counterinsurgency militia. Bashar wanted to crush a rebellion in the region of Darfur that began more than 20 years ago due to the political and economic marginalization of the local population.
And it says civilians are trapped in the city, the only one in Darfur still in the hands of the SAF, afraid of being killed should they attempt to flee. The dire situation is compounded by a severe shortage of essential supplies as deliveries of commercial goods and humanitarian aid have been heavily constrained by the fighting, and delivery trucks are unable to freely transit through RSF-controlled territory.
This is like something that we both feel is very, very important for us to talk about. We talk about Gaza, we talk about Israel, we talk about
India, we talk about everywhere else.
But what we don't do is we don't discuss enough about what's been going on in Africa for a long time, which is basically people being put in power as potential figureheads and then allowing other powers to come in and rape the land, for lack of a better word, of their natural resources while they let the other two parties fight it out and pretend to care, where they send in minimal aid, X, Y, and Z. It's been going on all over Africa for a long time. I see like in Mali as well as Burkina Faso and I believe it's Niger as well. They've kind of come together and put together like a coalition of countries, and they kicked France out. And I think was it Chad? Chad they were talking about earlier. We'll get into that a little bit later. They actually have kicked American forces out of their country, and also French forces.
It was Niger. Niger kicked the American forces out, and they let the Russians come in.
I think Chad also, they did the same thing. They're at a point where they're sick and tired of it. They've been putting deals with France. France has really been just they've had their foot on the necks of the African nations for a very, very long time, like they've done around the world. And they were forced to use the French. I'm not sure what their money's called. They were forced to use that. Is it a franc? Possibly.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or something like that. I don't know.
I thought they used croissants.
Or maybe a franc's German.
My bad. That was disrespectful.
No, but they were forced to use their money. Now, on top of that, they were forced to sell them their natural resources at a discount. It's just been a very bad problem going on for a long time. And we feel like we need to talk about this because this has been going on for a while. And there's not a lot of media being spoke about it, I believe, because it's happening in an African country. And so people don't really care as much about African countries. They feel like, okay, there's always war going on, where you always are setting things into motion to create war. Just like you created, a lot of this came from at the same time. I believe some of these forces were helped out by Libya at a time when I think when Gaddafi was in power. At a certain time, he was helping to fund some of these people to kind of help quash all these uprisings that are going on around the country, and so it's just something that I felt like we really needed to discuss. And so,
no, it's a really important thing too, because it's a lot of parts of that world we kind of ignore it, or the media kind of brushes over it and we don't hear about it. But one thing that you said that was really interesting to me is how you said, they prop up a figurehead and then both parties just sit there and act like they're helping people, and they give them minimal stuff to support them. Absolutely. And that sounds just like America.
On top of that,
it's exactly what they do to us. Get a figurehead to prop up right in front of us, and then we sit there and we argue about both sides, and then both sides get rich while we stay poor.
Or we stay poor. And on top of that, they
tell you vote for your life,
and then they want to tell you that they're going to give police officers immunity.
Yes. You know what I'm saying? So, U.S. presidential candidate Donald Trump said on Wednesday it was a beautiful thing to watch New York police officers raiding a Columbia University building occupied by pro-Palestinian students, and called an official crackdown on campus protests across the United States. Now, what he wants to do is give police immunity from whatever they do. Now, let's understand, folks. These protests across America at these college campuses are not anti-Israeli. They're anti-genocide. They're people, these students who have TikTok, who have Twitter, who have Instagram, are watching the murder of civilians.
Who have the means of communication. That's what they're trying to say. They're just mad because now we can see stuff.
We can see it. So that's why they want to ban TikTok
anymore. You can't tell us what's going on because someone can say, hey, no, this is what's really happening.
Yeah,
this is what they're really mad about.
And it all goes back to the TikTok ban. And now they're trying to take our rights away with Prop 6090. I mean, that still boggles my mind. They want to take away my freedom of speech. They're saying part, you couldn't even use the Bible no more. I know we talked about it on last episode. Still messing with me. You know what I'm saying? Like, they would have to take scriptures out the Bible if they pass this law. It infringes on our constitutional right. The first right on there, on the Constitution, is the freedom of speech.
It's crazy, man. Like, it's at a point to where, like, man, we talked about this so much in exhaustion. I've been sitting back and I've watched so much stuff on it. It's like, when you look at this, we understand that these people hold this much sway within our country. And now you got a potential presidential candidate who wants to give the police immunity. Like, we have to start looking at where we're heading right now. He wants immunity. He wants the police to have immunity. They want to take away our freedom of protest. They want to take away our freedom of speech. They want, it's getting to the point. What's next? Then they're going to want to take away our guns. This is what Democrats want to do. They want to take away your guns. Once they got that, then they got us by the kahunas.
Well, they got a new law coming out where it's like they're trying to make it a universal background check thing. And I know the NRA is trying to fight that right now. But they're taking our rights away. And then they're making you think that your life is easier. Now, think about this, folks. You have smartphones. They give you smart houses where you walk up to your house, or before you get to your home, you can turn the heat on. You can turn the lights on. You can make your garage open. You can start the oven to preheat it so you can bring in your lasagna. Now, for us, we think, oh, this is so convenient. Now, look at here. It's not convenient, because when they decide to come and get you and you don't want to come out your house, they can turn everything off on your house. They can turn the temperature down to 5 degrees. They can open your garage when they feel like it. They can make sure your power doesn't work. They can make sure your heat doesn't work. They can turn the heat up to 100 degrees and burn you in there.
I mean, this is what you look at it. I mean, they've already used robots to blow people up. When they had the guy down, I think he was in Dallas.
Yes.
Who
he had shot at the police, and they couldn't get to him. He was in a nice little area where they couldn't get to him, so they took one of those. It was the bomb robots that go in there and defuse the bombs, and they blew them up.
So we're already getting to a point where we live in a police state to a degree. We kind of live in a police state. They want to give everyone more powers to be able to do these things to us. We just really need to start being more vigilant and paying attention. I got a lot of people who I discuss things with who are just like on my Facebook page. And, I can tell that today I was having a conversation and this guy had a picture of something like where people were staring at a blank wall. And they're like, this is right here is a view of Palestinian, ancient Palestinian art. And what I had to go and tell them, because they were just basically as a blank wall, like there's no such thing as a Palestinian. This is what they do to downgrade like certain races. Doesn't matter who it is, certain cultures, whoever it is. This is what they do to kind of create a feeling of these people don't matter. But in reality, they were known as the Philistines. In the Bible, they're in the Bible. from 3,200 plus years ago, in this same region.
Yeah, the Bible that we won't be able to use anymore as soon as they pass this law here in America where, you can't, anything that you say negative against Israel is anti-Semitic.
No, but the biggest thing also too is that we got to start looking at what's really happening versus our differences.
What they're saying right now, ladies and gentlemen, break it down for you. What's really happening with this 60/90 law? Let's say it like this. Let's say you don't like the Cowboys, the Dallas Cowboys. And so Congress and the House are trying to pass a law where if you say anything bad about the Dallas Cowboys, you can potentially be jailed or fined for talking bad about the Dallas Cowboys. No matter how bad they do, no matter how good they do, you can't say anything bad about the Dallas Cowboys or Jerry Jones, or you'll be fined or put in jail.
Your job or something. They're taking it to extremes.
Yeah.
Over a few kids, maybe saying from the river to the sea or wherever the case may be. I mean, that doesn't come on.
They're beating up young adults.
Speech. We've watched them tell people who are Nazis they're allowed to go and get a
permit.
And march through the streets and chant whatever they want to chant. But all of a sudden, the kid was poked in the eye. Let's go back to that. Let's get that kid. Let's see what his eye looks like. Let's see how bad it is. I'm not trying to say it wasn't bad, didn't happen, whatever else. But come on, man. If that's the worst that's happened, there's been thousands of people out here protesting. That's pretty damn good.
And after a while, they're going to start doing everybody like they just did Joshua Dean. Now, Joshua Dean was formerly an auditor at Spirit Aero Systems, and he was a whistleblower who alleged Spirit had failed to address defects along the Boeing 737 product line, but he had died Tuesday after a 2-week fight with an infection. He was 45 years old, perfectly healthy. According to a Facebook post from his mother, he was hospitalized with influenza B and MRSA that went into a pneumoma. His condition quickly deteriorated, and he was transferred to a hospital in Oklahoma City where he died. Okay. Now, imagine that. He blew the whistle. Remember, all those planes were in the air. The doors were flying off. Engines were catching fire. He blew the whistle on that, and they killed him because he gave up that information.
This is the company, the Spirit Aero Systems. That's the company that made the doors for the Boeing planes. Pretty much, that were malfunctioning. There was another guy who died like maybe 2 weeks before that, or a month before.
It was a couple months before, yeah.
And this guy had done the same thing.
He was the Boeing whistleblower.
Yeah, he was that guy, and they said he died from a self-inflicted bullet. Basically killed himself. I mean, we've heard this story before. Now this guy dies. I mean, this will all be swept under the rug underneath the bigger, massive kind of all the other stories that are out there.
Yeah, the media blitz, because there's something new every day.
It'll be nothing. This will be damn near the perfect crime because they understand what they're getting away with. Boeing, if it were found that Boeing was putting planes out that they knew had malfunctions and were not correctly put together, because some people were saying that they were jumping on top of like certain parts of the wing to get it to fit in, jumping on top of it.
Oh yeah. See what happened with Boeing. Boeing used to be a great business, a great place to work. We live here in the Pacific Northwest. We know about Boeing. That's one of the jobs to get. But they said that when shareholders came in and people came in for profit, they told them to start cutting corners for profit. And that's what's going on with Boeing now. That's why you're seeing all these planes having malfunctions and things going on in the air. But it's the same thing. It's like someone comes out and says something about it, and now they're dead. They're gonna be killed for it.
John Barrett was the guy who was found dead of a reported self-inflicted gunshot wound shortly after giving evidence in a lawsuit against Boeing. This happened 2 months prior to this. So I mean, both of their two witnesses dead.
I mean, these are billion-dollar companies.
Convenient. I mean, that's convenient. I mean, I've had situations happen. I'm like, man, where are my witnesses at?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're still there. They're coming to court.
I mean, they're taking your rights away. And then also, I want to talk about Article 9 that just came through. We'll talk about this. Arkansas governor says state won't comply with new federal rules on treatment of trans students. It says Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders declared Thursday that the state won't comply with federal regulations that seek to protect the rights of transgender students in the nation's school, joining other Republican-led states that are also defying the new rules. Sanders signed an executive order stating that Arkansas schools will continue to enforce restrictions on which bathroom and pronouns transgender students can use, a law that can be invalidated by the new regulations on how to enforce Title IX. Now, also, what's his name? John DeSantis, the governor of Florida, he also said the same thing. He would not comply with it either.
So basically what they're saying is that they don't have to use the correct pronouns that people want to be called by.
Yeah.
And also they don't have to let them use any bathroom they choose to use.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, the bathroom part, I understand that. The pronoun part, I mean, that's a tough one.
I look at it like this, man. If you have a child that's under the age of 18 and you give them sex altering drugs, it's child abuse. If I can't drink till I'm 21, if I can't smoke till I'm 21, if I can't die for my country until I'm 18, then your children should not be allowed to get sex changes or given medical stuff to change their sex until they're 18 or at least 21. If you do it before, it's child abuse.
And honestly, I really wouldn't have a problem with that either.
Because think about it, when I was 13, I'm a totally different person. When you're even from 13 to 15, from 15 to 18.
I don't have a problem with that either. Waiting until they're 18 and letting it become a decision they get to make as an adult on their own, where it's not so much as just a hormonal thing, but like some people know what they are when they're young.
I don't believe transgenders should be able to play in sports either, unless they make their own league. I
don't believe that. I don't believe that either. I'm not for having transgenders in different sports either. There's a problem with that. I'm gonna tell you a story. Yeah. I was in the bathroom in Seattle, not in the bathroom, but in a airport in Seattle, going to the bathroom. You know, and this is the first time I've ever seen this. I'm walking, I see a restroom. I'm like, okay. I'm looking at it, and I can't tell whether it's for men or women because it's just like a person kind of a looking thing. I'm like, okay, it doesn't look like, man, I don't know what this is. I'm standing there, I'm looking befuddled, and a guy walks up to me. He's like, taps me like, it's for both. And I'm just like, what the, this is something I've never, ever seen in my life. And I don't feel comfortable. I see kids walking in there. I see, grown men, like women. To me, I don't feel comfortable doing that. I don't think that should be done.
It's weird. It's like we've had unisex bathrooms all our lives. We just never realized it because no one wants to use them. They're called honey buckets.
No, but at the end of the day, those are solo though. That's different because there's only for one person. These, you walk into these, there's actual I don't know. I didn't walk inside, but I'm figuring everyone's everywhere. Yeah. And that to me, there's a lot of cause for concern with something like that.
My mom said it too. She's like, I don't want to share bathrooms with men. Because men are disgusting. And I remember we used to ride the ferry and they didn't even have like urinal singles for men. It was just one big ass trough.
Just a trough.
I would never even use. I'd be like, it's just one trough.
It's a trough. That's what you got to do sometimes. I've used a trough before.
I'm good. I go pee in the stall.
I've used a trough several times.
I go pee in the stall.
I mean? But I'm like, I don't feel like that. I mean, for a state to have, that's a lot to put on a school too. I mean, imagine a teacher and a person comes in every other day and they're saying that there's something different because kids do stuff like that. I mean, whether they're playing a game or whether they're serious about it. A lot of them will be serious about it. And some of them will feel like, you know what, today I want to go to school and be silly and do whatever I want to do. And not saying it's a laughing matter because for a lot of people, it's not. It's really who they are, really what they believe in life, But this is something that you shouldn't have. A teacher shouldn't have to deal with that, period. You come to school to learn. Everything else you got going on outside of that, I understand that it's a part of your daily life, but it shouldn't have to be a part of 30, 40 other kids who they're barely even being able to teach, barely even being able to educate because they don't have enough. There's just one teacher and 40 students.
And school shouldn't be sex-based. I mean, I'm not knocking anybody for who you want to sleep with, whatever, but, it's all this stuff is sex-based. You want to put a pride flag in a school that has no sense. It's your sexual preference. That's all that is. That's who you want to sleep with the same sex, which is fine. I don't care if you're a man, you want to be gay, cool. There's more women for me. But your kids don't need to learn about that. It doesn't need to be in the schools.
What do you mean?
It doesn't. Sex-based stuff, especially in elementary schools. Middle school, that's understand. You're exploring yourself. High school, that makes sense. You want to hand out condoms. They wouldn't. When I was in high school, they wouldn't even give us condoms.
We were in high school a long time ago. Things have changed. They should have probably sped up that process. There's probably been a lot less. Yeah. That's how I feel. I feel like kids should start learning about certain things. I'm not saying
you learn about it in middle school, but they're trying to indoctrinate elementary kids school, and that's you barely know how to count to 5.
Elementary could be 5th, 6th grade. A kid, I mean, there's kids out there having their menstrual cycle at that young age. Things. This is a realistic thing that's really going on. 5th and 6th grade, that might be just to start like, hey, learning about what these things are, so they don't feel so uncomfortable. And
so see, for my kids at school, they're telling them if you don't call this other kid by the right pronouns, you're in trouble. And how are you supposed to know? You can change your pronouns by the next day.
Yeah, that's too much. I mean,
it is too much. It's a lot.
Like I said, I don't agree with that at all. I feel like we definitely need to have. I mean, it's just a lot. It's just a lot. It's a lot as an adult. Imagine what it is as a kid. But or
imagine what it is as a parent. You're trying to protect your kids, and these teachers are rolling in here putting this stuff in your kid's head.
You think it's the teachers doing it?
Of course, because if the teachers weren't with it, they wouldn't do it.
I think it's these kids doing it, man. They're learning about it, and these kids challenge.
Yeah, the teachers can just tell them, "Shut up, Johnny."
Don't work that way. You tell a kid, "Shut up," that kid's gonna go crazy. Next thing you know, his parents at the school tripping.
Yep, and he might shoot it up.
We both know how this goes, man. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of good teachers, but there's a lot of teachers that probably aren't as good as, but I don't think it's the teachers that's bringing us to the kids. I think these kids are bringing us in they learning a lot right now, and it's okay for them. I think
it's the, you get those, I hate to say it. I don't want to call them, you get those knucklehead parents that want to come check it out. Let me give you an example. The parents went to McDonald's and they said they wanted a healthy choice for their kids when they took them through the drive-thru. So McDonald's said, instead you have a choice of fries or apples, right? Because these parents lobbied for it. No, we want a healthy choice. Mm-hmm. So they gave the kids at the drive-thru, they give them an option. Hey, do you want French fries or do you want apples? The kids never wanted the apples. They said, I want French fries. Every time. McDonald's lost so much money on the apples, they just throw them in there in the Happy Meal now. They don't even ask them. You get fries and apples. But it only takes a couple of people to complain about it and make a big enough scene to make it change. But is it right? Because you make a scene.
So what you're saying basically is that these kids, they should be able to learn. They shouldn't be able to learn about different orientations.
No, you're at school. Learn about science, Johnny. Learn about math. You know what the school should be teaching you instead about teaching you about trans stuff? Teaching about how to deal with your finances when you get out of school. That's what schools should be doing.
I think so too. But
they should teach you how to get a job.
These things are all pertinent issues when it comes to school, because this is where kids learn this stuff at, man. That's just my personal opinion. I'm not trying to say that it has to be pushed on. It could be said this is something that does exist. Like, these things exist. This is not to say that you are this or this is what you are, what you got going on. And that's for a parent to deal with their kids with at home. Yeah. Teachers don't have, they don't have all day with your kid. That's not that. A teacher should not be the primary person where your kid learns from.
And a lot of parents should have realized that your kid is bad as hell when you had to sit home with them during COVID. But once again, I don't want to get too deep into it.
People know this already. Yeah. People know this already. We just like to blame educators. It's your job to do this. It's really not.
No, it takes a village, and the parents have to do their part too.
Absolutely.
But it's hard for the parents to do their part because they got to work 40 plus hours because ain't nobody paying them right.
Let's be real here. You know what I mean?
You know what I'm saying? They're going to keep cool with all that stuff until they decide to call it anti-Semitic. Then nobody gets to do it. But I don't want to get too deep into it. Let us know what you guys think in the topics or in the comments. Let us know. Like, subscribe, share. Hit that ding button. Share it with your friends. Tell us what you think about this.
Yeah, we're at 1,000 now. Let's go ahead and get pushed to the next 1,000 and then to 5,000. Let's get it going.
Yeah, once again, this is Uncommon Courtesy, and that's the show.